22nd at 5:15 p.m. Would you all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you all. Mr. Zerbo, would you please conduct the roll?
Mr. Castine.
Present.
Mr. Bizzaio.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Henry.
Here.
Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. Kretzer. Here. Mr. Perrier.
Here.
Mr. Potiker.
Here.
Mr. Timmons.
Here.
Ms. Waldron.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All legislators have received a copy of the stenographer's minutes of the March 8th, 2023 regular session. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to second. A motion by Legislator Hall, second by Legislator Perrier. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I will now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with the legislature. Please raise your hand if you wish to be recognized, and then state your name and address when you go to the podium. In accordance with the rules of order, it will be for 5 minutes, so we have just the two of you. Would you like to go first, ma'am? Go ahead.
Chelsea Liberty, P.O. Box 684, Dannemora, New York 12929. So yesterday, the Clinton County Sheriff's Office lost another female corrections officer. Like many female employees before her, she was bullied and forced out. As I've already told Mr. Mike Zerlo back in October of 2022, the members of the Sheriff's Department are required to enforce rules for inmates and the public, but are not required to follow rules and policies themselves. The only time you will hear about an employee not following a rule or policy is when the employee has become a target by the sheriff and his administration. That is what just happened to C.O. Sutter. She spoke out about sexual harassment, and they chose to target her for failing to follow policy, which is not enforced by other officers. Those she spoke out against were found guilty of sexual harassment, and it was suggested they be terminated. 3 of those officers, 2 of which I personally find to be predators, are still there today. They hold their same ranks and are involved in the same assignment on the special response team. I have heard that some of you do not feel like that you have the power over the sheriff or his department. However, each and every one of you has a voice, and your voices are more powerful than mine due to the elected positions you hold. You must know there is wrongdoing going on. By remaining silent to what is happening within the Sheriff's Department, you are allowing an environment of sexism and discrimination to breed and grow completely unchecked. I have now emailed the Sheriff, Major Leon, Mike Zerlo, Kim Kimblum, and Ms. Patty Waldron multiple times regarding personnel complaints I filed regarding police misconduct by Sergeant Rossoff and Deputy Swart at the Sheriff's Department. Sergeant Rossoff was on duty obtaining police records and reports and used them on his own personal agenda to further harass me and to attempt to discredit me as a police officer. He posted this information on his own twisted misinformation.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop you right there.
I'm sorry?
No, I cannot allow you to make accusations against people like that.
I will.
Believe me, it's not good for you either. So if you have something further to say.
I have offered the county proof of this, and they have continued to. They have ignored my personal.
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not going
I won't go into detail, sir. Can I continue?
Okay, don't go into detail.
Okay.
Keep it general.
So, either way, the information I have given to the county regarding these complaints have gone I have been ignored. My emails have not been responded to. Police misconduct should be taken seriously. According to a decision that was just handed down regarding an ongoing court case with the Clinton County Sheriff's Office, published online for anyone to obtain, and I quote, "The court further finds that Lieutenant Lauren and Nurse Kinter acted recklessly and with an evil motive and intent towards plaintiff." That was towards an inmate. That lieutenant is still employed. My question is, what is the county going to do about this? How many people have to be
minimized before something is done. That isn't a court case any of you can look up. The judge ruled, again, with reckless and evil motive towards an inmate. Excuse me, I'm sorry. If you cannot directly make changes to that department or how it's run, I encourage you all to be brave and speak out on what you see and know. The poor treatment and conditions, especially for women and then apparently inmates, are going to continue unless something is done. That's all.
Thank you. Sir.
Before I start, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, but I was here in September, maybe the 12th of the meeting, and there was another employee of the Sheriff's Department, an indigenous person, and she had a complaint also. And it's on video, and I was scanning my speech back in September, and something going on here, okay? So that's relative to this lady's statements to you. So good evening, my name is Jeffrey Barker, living at 4079 State Round I in Plattsburgh. I want to take this time to address a surprising proposal the Clinton County Legislature has that I read about recently on the Press Republic website, not published, just on the website. Most of us are well aware of the large budgets, increasing costs, and the needs of so many in this county. My concern is that the proposed establishment of a $1.5 million fund using taxpayer monies to try to attract an additional airline to operate here and to offset an airline's potential loss is wrong. My flying experience background is 38 years of military and with one of the largest U.S. carriers. I'm retired now. I feel very qualified to make this input to you since I know this taxpayers' money can be better utilized elsewhere. I am also aware that our legislators, most with little airline market experience, make critical airport choices that may not be in the best financial interest of the residents and taxpayers. Accordingly, this is to advise you that the proposed $1.5 million fund to try to attract another airline should be carefully considered based upon the following points. One, it is only partially funded by federal ARPA funds, and the rest is to be undisclosed Clinton County taxpayer monies for a total of $1.5 million. Question, how much is taxpayer exposure and can this be better utilized elsewhere? Two, any additional hub feed airline operation may disqualify us from continuing to be EAS subsidized in the future. Example, we, the county, we prove we can have a second standalone airline operation and the EAS/alternate EAS subsidy is thus not required. Communication with the DOT for these limitations is imperative to understand this. Three, the current alternate EAS contract is a grant that the county can use any way it desires. Considering that subsidized Contour charter operation can still be financially viable flying with almost all empty seats, the county should renegotiate with Contour to have more of that alternate EAS grant money to use. Suggestion, offer 3 daily flights to the hub market instead of 2 for better connectivity, or apply some to this new funding plan. Point 4, to protect the taxpayers, any such usage of qualified ARPA monies must be sound and specific. For example, after December 31st, 2024, where are additional funds to continue the financial support to such new airline coming from, and what profit margin of the airline will be required? Most airlines need an average load factor of about 80% to be viable. 5, to avoid loss of the ARPA funds, at what point does the county stop waiting for such new airline and direct the funds to a much needed county usage that is non-airline? For example, Think of the Durkee Street DRI stagnation situation. Point 6, it takes several years for an airline to establish a successful market, and this is quite extensive to set up. Accordingly, any such move in this direction best happen soon, or we will have another embarrassment and loss to the county taxpayers. 7, the county should explain why successful Spirit Airlines is not resuming post-COVID service at the airport, and consider these facts and the industry moving forward. 8, it may be best to try to pursue a Caribbean direct operation, but that will compete with the connectivity of ultra-low-cost Allegiant Airlines here to the Florida hub markets and the Caribbean. Further, it may not be financially viable outside of our winter months. Overall, considering the airline industry, this oversized county airport is quite expensive to operate and maintain. It would be inappropriate to use taxpayer monies in the aforesaid funding proposal. Thank you for your attention to this proposal. I might have a few seconds here. Yeah, I'm concerned with it. There's a lot of needy people around this area. We all know that. We read the paper. And I know you want the airport to be successful. I've read a lot. I've watched a lot. About 4 years ago, I attended an airport committee. I was flabbergasted to sit down and have the committee talk about getting a bus to go from the passengers terminal to the international arrivals facility, that I call it, to the hotel. They were talking about getting the bus and the funding. I'm thinking, where are the airplanes? Where are the markets? If we didn't have EAS, we would have nobody here, but probably Allegiant taking the low-cost Canadians and some of our people down to Florida. So please do not approve the funding. Give it to the United Way, the libraries, the Clinton Community College.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say. I'm going to give you all 2 copies for the record. Mrs. Earl.
Anyone else? Did I miss anyone? Someone late?
Thanks, sir.
No one else.
Thank you.
We'll now go to committee reports. I'll call on the chairperson of each committee in alphabetical order by committee, starting with Buildings and Grounds, Legislator Messiah.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The Buildings and Grounds Committee met on Monday, March 13th. James Cleveland, the Superintendent of Buildings and Grounds, was present to discuss a resolution titled Authorizing Contract with Door Control, Inc., and also hold a discussion on finalizing a contract with Wendell Energy Services, LLC. Resolutions 220 and 221 have been placed on the agenda as a result of the committee's recommendation. The next Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, April 10th at 4 p.m. End of report.
Thank you very much, sir. Children and Family Services, Legislator Potter.
Thank you, Chairman. The Children and Family Services Committee has not met since the last regular session. The next Children and Family Services Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, April 4th at 5:15 p.m. End of report.
Thank you. Economic Development, County Operations, Legislator Hall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Economic Development and County Operations Committee has not met since the last regular session. The next Economic Development and County Operations Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, April 12th at 4 p.m. End of report.
Thank you. Finance Committee, Legislator Jennings.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee has not met since the last regular session. The next Finance Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, April 5th at 5:15 p.m.
Thank you, sir. Health Committee, Legislator Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Health Committee has not met since our last regular session. The next Health Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, April 5th at 4 p.m. End of report. Thank you.
Thank you. Human Services, Legislator Perrigan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Human Services Committee has not met since the last regular session. The next Human Services Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, April 4th at 4:15. End of report.
Thank you. Personnel Committee. The Personnel Committee has not met since the last regular session. Resolutions number 222 through 235 have been placed on the agenda as a result of the committee's recommendation from the March 6th meeting. And the next Personnel Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, April 3rd at 5 p.m. Plattsburgh International Airport, Legislator Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Plattsburgh International Airport Committee has not met since the last one, and today's meeting was canceled. Resolutions 236 through 238 have been placed on the agenda on the recommendation of the committee. The next Plattsburgh International Airport Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, April 26th at 4 p.m. End of report.
Thank you, sir. Public Safety, Legislator Castine.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, the Public Safety Committee has not met since the last regular session. The next Public Safety Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, April 3rd at 4 p.m. As you all know, I'm sure the northern border situation continues to worsen. I've asked Sheriff Favreau to attend tonight's meeting to update us all on the situation. He said he would prefer to continue to gather information and to confer with the Border Patrol regarding exactly what information he has gotten from them can be publicly shared. He will be at the April 3rd Public Safety Committee meeting and will give us a 20 to 30 minute update. I've asked him to also plan on attending our next regular session on April 12th. Everyone that I have talked to in my travels along the northern border route has stories to share regarding the illegal aliens in their backyards and buildings. There's a great deal of concern for the people living in that area, and with the milder temperatures arriving, we are all concerned that the already astronomical numbers will only continue to increase. I've yet to verify it, but I heard from a reliable source that there could be 72% of the illegal alien traffic coming south from Canada to the U.S. occurring in our county. I'm hoping that 72% is the whole Swanton sector, but what I was told was it was happening in Clinton County. That's from all the way from Vancouver to Maine, and that's a lot of distance and a heck of a high percentage. I would encourage all of you to check out the Swanton Border Patrol Facebook page on a regular basis for photos and stories. Some of them you'll find shocking, and they're all very interesting. It is report.
Thank you, sir. Transportation Committee, Legislator Crest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Transportation Committee meeting scheduled for Monday, March 13th was canceled. Resolutions 239 through 248 have been pulled and placed on the agenda upon the recommendation of the committee. The next Transportation Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, April 10th at 5:15 p.m. That's in the report.
Liaison reports, Board of Health, Legislator Potter.
Thank you, Chairman. The Board of Health met on March 20th, 2023 at 7 p.m. A presentation on healthcare services was conducted by Deb Packett. 5 resolutions were discussed and passed. The next Board of Health meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 17th at 7 p.m. and is open to the public for the report.
Thank you. Chamber of Commerce, Legislator Potter.
I attended the last North Country Chamber SCPC meeting on Thursday, March 16th at 9 a.m. Christy Kennedy gave an update on chamber efforts as well as the current and upcoming website changes. Just everyone take a look at them. Have improved the website quite a bit. The attendees expressed their major concern, as with everybody, all businesses in the area, were finding employees to fill vacancies. The next SDPC meeting is tentatively scheduled for May 18th at 9 a.m. End of report.
Clinton Community College, Legislator
Yes,
Rizzo.
Mr. Chairman. Clinton Community College Board of Trustees has not met since our last regular meeting. They have a meeting scheduled for Tuesday, March 28th at 5 p.m. End of report.
Thank you. Community Services Board, Legislator Castine.
No report, sir.
Thank you. Cooperative Extension, Legislator Timmons.
Yes, we met last night, and one of the things that we've decided to end is our FF program. We've had a hard time finding people to do the program, and they have to do a certain number of steps in order for us to get paid. And because it's so hard to get people to show up for all of the steps, we've actually lost money with it. So unfortunately, we decided not to continue this year, and go and see, a year or two, if we can get interest back, maybe we'll bring it back. But as of right now, we're ending it.
Thank you, sir. Discipline review. Nothing. Grievance, nothing. Intercom, Legislator Waller.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we will not be meeting again until the end of April in Essex County.
LCLG Regional Planning Board, Legislator Hughes.
No report.
Soil and Water, Legislator Spurrier and Timmons.
No report.
Workforce Development Board, Legislator Kretschmer.
No report.
Staff member reports. Ms. Keller?
I'd like to just request a brief executive session to provide an update on the progress of the sale of the nursing home.
And Mr. Zerlo?
Yes, Chairman, I will add to that executive session for the sale and lease of real property in addition to the nursing home. And also a brief NISAC update. I hope you're reading everything that we're sending out to you. As everybody knows, April 1 is the start of the state's new fiscal year. It is no guarantees, but it's increasingly likely that that date will be met. But, you know, there's still hope. Our three major issues. Number one is the EFMAP situation. We are hoping that everybody is hearing us. We are certainly yelling loud. The fact is that everybody's trying to spend the same dollar, but we're working hard. We're hoping at the end of the day, whether it's in the Medicaid budget or otherwise, that will hopefully be able. So that's the hope there. On the 18B, indigent defense assigned council funding is looking positive in the one-house budgets. Both houses actually tweaked the governor's proposal, and in our favor, provide funding for that. And the third one is the in rem language in the governor's proposal, and our sources are that that will be removed from the budget. It's got no fiscal impact on the state of New York, although there's still a federal Supreme Court case on that issue, and I'm also hearing that the state legislature may look at tweaking some of that language outside the budget process at the end of their session. So the big one obviously remains the Medicaid proposal to divert $625 million from county coffers this year. So we're still fighting very hard. As I mentioned before, we create an immediate hole in Clinton County's fiscal 23 fiscal year since we passed our budget January 1st, so 3/4 of our Medicaid expense, which is about $1.4 million. So we're fighting hard. Keep your fingers crossed. I will keep you folks posted.
Thank you, sir. Resolutions. We'll go to resolutions. Before voting on the resolutions, I want to note that the majority of the resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committees, and the legislature is taking action tonight based in large part on the recommendations of those committees. Mr. Zerlo, would you please read the resolutions to be acted upon?
Certainly. Resolution 220, authorizing contract with Door Control Incorporated, Buildings and Grounds.
Motion, Legislator Mazzio, second, Legislator Timmons. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 221, authorizing contract with Wendell Energy Systems LLC for energy performance. Legislature.
Motion, Legislator Mazzio, second, Legislator Timmons. Discussion?
I just want to point out that the final project as contemplated in this resolution is in front of you. It reflects everything that was decided upon on that dual meeting we had in Albany, except I want to point out that it still contains the higher boiler cost because we're trying to get what we call a cheaper option for a dual cast system and a single cast system, and it's been determined that the dual cast system will be as expensive as the high efficiency system that's priced here, and the single cast system, which would be cheaper, they can't guarantee a price yet, so we left the high number in there. Should they be able to get a number for the single cast boiler, and the lead time allows us to put it in by this heating system, the heating season, we will obviously go that route, which could reduce this cost by $50,000 to $100,000. A couple of other things I want to point out to you is this number has a $300,000 contingency built in, so that may not be used. That savings would accrue back to the county, not to the engineer. This number here is a guaranteed max cost. It cannot go over this number by $1. As I mentioned, the boiler could decrease. There is a $52,000 or $53,000 incentive energy rebate that we would be due if we move forward all these projects. There is the additional $75,000 NYSERDA rebate that we'll get back if we do $75,000 worth of work, and we're contemplating $4.4 million, so that's in there. The DSS roof project does have a 75% reimbursement on it, which would save us $615,000. However, that would need to be amortized, and we'd save that over 20 years, so about $31,000 a year for 20 years. But all in, that's another $615,000 off of that project amount. Mr. Bazile, is there anything else you want to add to that?
The only other thing was, I think due to mobilization, that they actually just reduced their price after our meeting for the option to roof the elevator area by like 15 grand. They cut their price, additional price cut from like 140 some odd thousand down to 132. So there was some additional savings that came after that.
So this number does reflect what you talked about. I just want to remind everybody, I'm not trying to pull a fast one on here. The three major things that increased the cost from when we originally started talking about this were: we added an additional roof, we added additional work at the highway department under the direction of this board, and the estimate on the original estimate on the highway roof was just that, an estimate, and once they did their structural work, realized that process could not be used. So all those things together was just over $1.5 million. So if you do subtract that amount from the 4.4, you're right about where we were originally. So we added work, and one of the estimates was off considerably.
But we all agree, I think the county highway department building needs the repair very bad.
Right, I just wish the original number was closer to the final number, that's all. And how are we gonna pay for it? We originally had $2.7 million of ARPA funding tagged. We plan on using some of the original ARPA money that we brought into our fund balance from the payroll offsets. And thirdly, the remainder of the project would come from ARPA, which was the additional $894,000, which would leave around $900,000. I know you're going to ask me the question, remaining in that fund, assuming that everything is spent. So that reflects your decisions in Albany. I just wanted to make it clear of all the funding sources. And we're getting, and one thing I will point out is, by the way, why did we do this? Other than we needed to do it, is energy savings, right? So the estimate is a saving, don't have it around me. I think it was around 130 plus around $150,000 a year we are going to save in our normal energy costs because we're doing this project. And that starts in year one.
That's based on today's cost of energy.
Right.
If the energy price goes up, we actually save.
Ironically, if energy goes up, we save more.
Anything further? Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Thank you for all your work on that, folks. So this will allow us to now enter our contract with Wendell and allow Wendell to finalize contracts with the subs that they've been negotiating with.
And those roofing companies are ready to go.
Roofing company.
Company, yes.
And they're ready to go. Yes. Resolution 222, approving backfill of permanent full-time assistant public defender's office.
Motion, legislator Capstein, second, legislator Cresser. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 223, approving replacement of a permanent part-time custodial worker position with a permanent full-time custodial worker position, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Kretzer, second, legislator Timmons. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 224, approving backfill of permanent part-time custodial worker, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Castine. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 225, approving backfill of permanent full-time airport maintenance worker 1, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Castine, second, legislator Kretzer. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 226, approving backfill of permanent full-time airport firefighter, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Kretzer, second, legislator Timmons. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 227, approving temporary backfill of a full-time airport maintenance worker position, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Castine. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 228, approving change in organizational codes for employment and training unit employees, PCNs 2402, 3204, 4089, and 4125, social services.
Motion, legislator Castine, second, legislator Timmons. Legislator Kretzer abstains. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried with one abstention. Legislator Kretzer.
Resolution 229, approving backfill of permanent full-time senior caseworker, social services.
Motion, legislator Kretzer, second, legislator Timmons. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 230, approving backfill of permanent full-time caseworker position, social services.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Castine. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 231, approving backfill of permanent full-time senior clerk position, social services.
Motion, legislator Castine, second, legislator Kretzer. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 232, approving backfill of a temporary full-time employment and training counselor position, social services.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Castine. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 233, approving reclassification of a vacant permanent full-time social worker 1 position down to a permanent full-time mental health clinician 1 position with backfill, mental health and addiction.
Motion, legislator Kretzer, second, legislator Castine. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 234, approving backfill of permanent part-time account clerk typist position, mental health and addiction.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Kretzer. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 235, approving backfill of permanent full-time motor equipment operator 2, highway department.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Castine. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 236, authorizing contract with JEDA Environmental Services, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Hughes, second, legislator Perrier. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Resolution 237, authorizing contract amendment with Absolute Fire Protection LLC, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Perrier, second. Motion, legislator Perrier, second, legislator Waldron. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 238, authorizing contracts with Gates Roofing and Construction Company and Lake Champlain Roofing Holdings, LLC, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Hall, second, legislator Perrier. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Resolution 239, authorizing contract with New York State Electric and Gas Corporation, Highway Department.
Motion, legislator Kretzer, second, legislator Zia. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 240, awarding bid for the reconstruction of the Military Turnpike and Ruger Street intersection, Highway Department.
Motion, legislator Kretzer. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 241, awarding bid for the major bridge rehabilitation of the Union Falls Road County Route 4 Bridge over the Saranac River Bridge identification number 3335670, Highway Department.
Motion, legislator Kretzer. Second, legislator Potiker and Waldron. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 242, authorizing engineering services agreement with Barden and Judas DPC for the Treadwell Mills Military Turnpike Corridor Pedestrian and Bicycle Improvement Project, Highway Department.
Motion, legislator Kretzer. Second, legislator Mazzia. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Carried.
I think we get a second on
Certainly. And a second, legislator Mazzia and legislator Hughes.
Resolution 243, awarding bid for construction materials, testing, inspection, and sampling services for the years 2023 and 2024, Highway Department.
Motion, legislator Kretzer. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 244, awarding bid for environmental testing, inspection, and sampling services for the years 2023 and 2024, Highway.
Motion, legislator Kretzer. Second, legislator Potiker. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 245, authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance 100% of the federal aid and state Marchicelli program aid eligible costs of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore, Highway Department.
Motion, legislator Kretzer. Second, legislator Potiker. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 246, authorizing supplemental agreement number 3 with Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated for the rehabilitation of the Main Street Keysville Bridge over the Off-Sable River, bridge identification number 3359920, Highway Department.
Motion, legislator Kretzer. Second, legislator Mazzia. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 247, awarding bids for asphalt, concrete materials and delivery, Highway Department.
Motion, legislator Kretzer. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 248, authorizing the county treasurer to adjust appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Consolidated Local Street and Highway Improvement Program, Highway Department.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Kretzer. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 249, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Daycare Registration Grant Program, Social Services.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Potiker. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 250, authorizing the county treasurer to reappropriate 2022 funds for various accounts, Treasurer's Office.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Mazzia. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Resolution 251, approving appointments to the Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board, Legislature.
Mr. Timmons, high five.
Please.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 13.2. We have a motion to waive Rule 13.2. Motion by legislator Hall, second by legislator Timmons. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 252 has been withdrawn this evening. Background there is, this is our request to our state legislators to approve legislation to authorize the extension of the additional 1% of the sales tax. We asked for that, a bill was drafted, and this resolution was going to approve that bill as drafted. We heard late this afternoon that that the legislature wants individual bills. The grand hope was that they all be included in the budget and all taken care of, but the legislature has said we're not doing them in the budget, so make sure your individual bills come in. Our bill was originally drafted at the legislature's request for a 3-year extension. The legislature said all bills need to now be a 2-year extension. As such, they're getting a new bill drafted for us, so we will have to pass a resolution like this once that bill is drafted with these same numbers within 8 frames. So we're going to do this, it's just probably going to be 3 weeks from now. Resolution 253, authorize acceptance of bipartisan infrastructure law bill funding through the Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Fund. Legislature.
Motion, legislator Hughes, second, legislator Timmons. Discussion? Second by legislator Potter.
Under discussion, we've been working very hard on this, Mr. Potiker, in conjunction with the town of Skyler Falls and our engineering consultants. So this is very good news, and this resolution also authorizes the county purchase agent to seek requests for qualifications for architectural and engineering services. So the hope is that we can get this worthwhile project done for little or no county cost.
Any further discussion, questions? Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Carried. If there's nothing further to come before the legislature, I'd like to entertain a motion to enter into executive session. Motion, legislator Hall, second, legislator Waldron. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We'll be in executive session for a little bit. Anything further to come before the legislature this evening? Motion to adjourn. Motion by legislator Hall, second by legislator Hughes. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We are adjourned.